And in the last week, I was reviewing SMS the PR to bring support of a replay to the LDA tree, and the fix by issuing to address the racing in heartbeat connection. And apart from it, I am still working on the Ono tree implementation. And I have been discussing the technology-based test with Xuehan and Deepika. And that's it. Chen-Mei.
I'm still working on the test case, and currently the basic operation works on the extend map tree, and I have some problem with the split, so still debugging on the split operation.
Okay, thank you. Redek.
Hello. Last week I was mostly working on the common little things for Crimson, like a cleanup, like a refactoring of the subsystem config around the areas used for SeaStor, I mean custom validators. Apart from that, I rebased the backfill, getting back to it. I'm going to implement backfill for classical OSD. Actually, mostly for the sake of earlier isolated verification of the backfill machine. So there is also another possible task around the Crimson Messenger. We have a bunch of items there. We need to implement the on-wire 2.1. We need to implement the encryption. And I was thinking about one possible gotcha. I'm not entirely sure about compatibility of OpenSSL and SeaStor. OpenSSL, if I recall correctly from the times I was working on that.
So
Yep.
backfill is blocking our ability to test Crimson. None of this other stuff is.
Okay, backfill for Crimson is basically ready, I believe. I need to implement. I need to address a bunch of comments, but basically, it's done. I can work on backfill for classical to
I don't see that as being
provide more of a.
Although merging the code bases would be nice. But right now, I think our priority should be getting this running in Tethology so that we can actually validate that backfill and recovery work. Because frankly, until it runs in Tethology and we have failure testing, I don't believe that any of it works.
Yeah, we'll be surprised if there is one single green job at Tautology. I'm absolutely sure we'll be surprised.
No, I mean specifically just running the random thing where it kills OSDs will almost certainly crash Crimson. It's really important that we find out what those bugs are so we can fix them. In other words, I'm not saying there will be a few bugs. I'm saying it will crash quickly, is my bet. I don't think it's going to work very well at all.
Yes, that's what I expect.
Okay.
We have two possibilities, two approaches to tackle that. We can I'm focused on that right now. I'm saying only about backfill. We can use Crimson OSD as a test bed for backfill code. That will be the important case, the production one in the future. There is another approach that would allow to test the new backfill code in isolation from other things we put in Crimson via
unit tests. I thought you were doing that as part of the initial.
No, via classical OSD. If I switch classical OSD to use the fresh backfill code, I can test it on tautology in isolation.
I mean, I think that's great, but I don't think it's valuable for testing reasons. It's valuable because that will let us unify the two code bases. That's the valuable part. I don't really care about it from a testing point of view. From a testing point of view, we want to test Crimson. I don't
This
think it's
is not
any
only
easier to test
unify.
in Plastic.
Well, I bet there is also a lot of bugs just
Yes,
in
and it
the
turns out we
fresh
really have
backfill
to
code.
fix them.
Yeah, and switching classical could help to speed this up, I believe.
I mean, that seems like a whole separate development exercise. That would slow us down. That seems bad. I think we should do it also, but I think that's a project for after we have our first test running for Crimson.
Yeah, I can go with Sam's opinion.
In other words, there is a basic valuable thing. Hang on a sec. There's a basic valuable thing. The basic valuable thing is Crimson is able to run a thrashing test where the OSDs are killed and sequentially resurrected, in a way that isn't supposed to disrupt I/O. This test persists for 5 minutes with a workload and it doesn't crash or fail. Once that works, we have a way of validating pull requests. Until that works, we do not.
Okay. What else is needed to go? Is there anything else than backfill to go?
As far as I know, it's just backfill and recovery. Those are the two big pieces.
But recovery is PG log based recovery is almost done.
Right. Yes, they're both almost done. I would like to move them to the done part so that we can then test them and fix bugs. They don't have to be perfect. We don't have tests for it yet, right? But that will enable us to start running the test and then cleaning up the resulting failures. Because right now, we literally can't run that test. We don't have backfill recovery, so killing an OSD isn't supposed to work. We at least need to get to the point where killing an OSD is supposed to work.
Okay, so let's finish the backfill for Crimson.
Yes, this is what I'm saying.
Go to tautology and find, but still we need to think about further things. As you know, I'm afraid about gluing OpenSSL and SeaStor. There is OpenSSL inside has some abstraction over locks and also over threading. I'm not sure how powerful the abstraction really is, and whether it's possible to place OpenSSL on top of SeaStor.
What does OpenSSL do that's asynchronous?
Sorry?
Are you certain that's not just protection for reentrant or multi-threaded code touching the same state? Doesn't OpenSSL have a mode? Does OpenSSL have a mode where you can compile it without any mutexes whatsoever?
Not sure.
And even if it does have mutexes, that's just a performance problem. That feels like an optimization problem to be put off for later.
Well, I would say that it could be a severe problem for the performance of on-wire encryption. It's on
for the first few months, we can mark encryption as a performance killer.
Okay, if performance is not a priority, that would
it's a priority. It's just that we're probably not writing a replacement for OpenSSL. So the answer, if we need it, will be to upstream patches to change it. So the short-term solution is to integrate it and just make it known that if you're doing performance testing, you need to turn this off because it doesn't work. Or
yes, add a note somewhere so we can.
And in the background, do what we have to do to fix it. But writing a new OpenSSL probably isn't an option. So there isn't, in other words, isn't a decision we would make differently right now on that basis, right? There's no way we would make a different choice now.
When it comes to crypto libraries, our choice is extremely limited. It's only OpenSSL or NSS because of its certification.
So unless this is a priority right now to get it performant, which I would argue that it isn't, then we only care if there's a choice we have to make differently. And in this case, it doesn't look like there is. We have to use OpenSSL. So, meh.
Redek, do you happen to know what is the solution on the SeaStor side or on the SelectDB side? What is their take to use when it comes to encryption?
Don't know. I haven't looked on that yet.
Even if
Yeah,
they did
just
have
I
another
just
solution, we wouldn't be able to use it.
FIPS. We need to be FIPS compliant. Yep.
And we're not going to.
Uh,
No. We're going to stick with well-known crypto libraries. We're not adding a new one.
yep. Anyway,
Right.
this
I'm not sure
this
I'm
case
following
is
you.
very fresh. Sorry?
What was that,
I'm
Keaton?
not sure. I follow you. Why cannot we use whatever solution that SteelaDB guys are using for
Okay.
their production?
Because of some paperwork, we are obliged to pass through.
It's also incredibly irresponsible.
Exactly.
OpenSSL is heavily audited by many, many different people who know what they're doing. We are definitely, well, probably not, going to go out on a limb on crypto libraries.
Okay.
It's just really heavily audited. Governments trust it, companies trust it. Like you don't mess with that mostly.
Okay. It's
not without
more
a
like
really good reason.
Basically, FIPS.
Yeah.
Policy compliance.
And it's not just compliance. It is genuinely technically impossible for us to evaluate the security guarantees of a third-party library. I don't think any of us have that expertise.
Okay.
That's a
on
genuine,
side.
really difficult problem to do. People audit these things for a long time.
Gotcha.
That's on technical side. On formal side, you wouldn't be able to sell Ceph to government.
Or a lot of
Nobody
companies. A lot of companies just crib the same requirements off of whatever the local government is. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I recall that. Only a version of OpenSSL capacities qualification or something.
Well, hypothetically, another one could, but you'd have to actually do it. Like, you'd have to pay security researchers to do the legwork. You'd then have to lobby to have it added to the relevant standards. It's it's a thing. Like, it's not a small thing.
Okay.
And usually the answer is just get it added to OpenSSL.
But even OpenSSL provides some flexibility. There are multiple APIs available there. One is low level, which we were using, let's say, Messenger v1. It's extremely simple. No locking, no mutex inside. Very straightforward, very dumb, which is a good thing actually. But there is also higher layer API in OpenSSL, in libcrypto. It's called EVP. And this gizmo is more complicated. It offers more things like hardware acceleration at the price of much more complexity inside. And when I was debugging some OpenSSL related issues, I spotted some logs inside. Anyway, this is quite fresh thing. I recalled the logs just yesterday and put a card on our Trello board to validate, just to ensure whether we don't have some gotchas there. Okay, the last thing, I'm going to prepare. I'm going to make a code walkthrough over the new field code. I wonder whether it wouldn't be beneficial to make even series of code walkthroughs over the new gizmos in Crimson, like Szechuan's PG log based recovery, like Ronen's scrubbing. Maybe it would be a good idea to prepare a series of them to schedule maybe one time slot to give such walkthroughs. What do you think, guys?
I'm all for it. I'm not yet ready to show my code because not fully working yet, but yes, I think it's a good idea.
Sorry, what? I missed the part. You were talking about a code walkthrough, maybe?
Yes, for
Yep,
some of the
exactly.
new additions.
Oh,
When?
sure.
Like after the this stand up?
Oh, yeah. As part of a just lengthen the meeting and do it.
Fine by me, but I don't think it's a convenient time for CM, right? Or for Chenmei.
Well, as long as it's not super late, it's probably okay.
Okay. We move on?
Sure.
Okay. Ronan.
Everybody, more or less where I was last night. But first, two messages, two notifications. One, we have a new member, Gabi. He will be joining us today. It's his first day at the office. And as I said, he has 20 years experience with storage. Was leading teams and was a software engineer for many years, storage companies, and he will be joining today. I will start with him today and tomorrow, but next week I will be on a PTO for most of the week. So I will probably email you and some of you and ask for help in showing him around and for recommendation for a first task for him to handle. It's a first target. That's the news. Apart from that, I'm doing scrubbing, classic OSD scrubbing. Got the first transaction to work, but there's still work to do there. I have a question, if you have a minute, just to verify something.
Mhm.
I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but scrubbing starts with reserving resources locally and with the target, with the replica OSDs.
Yep.
Now I noticed that when you reserve, you always get a reply, either a grant or when you cancel, it seems that no reply is expected or sent. Am I
Yep.
right, or am I missing something in the code?
That sounds likely. I can't think of a reason why you'd need a response, actually.
We assume that messages do arrive to the other side.
No, we don't assume. The messenger layer is stateful.
So
OSD to OSD communication is stateful.
Yes. The lossless
Messages
connection.
are remembered, and if the messenger layer doesn't get an ACK about the message, and that does exist down at the messenger layer over the TCP connection, then it will resend the messages after a reconnect. So the same is only sort of true. This is a larger topic. Okay, the messenger comes in two different variants. There's lossless and lossy. Client to OSD connections are lossy, and you may assume on either end that as long as the connection has not reset, that if you send A and then B, and the other side gets B, they also got A, right? So you're guaranteed order delivery, but you may get a reset, and under those conditions, the messenger will not remember the messages in either direction, and the user is responsible for resending anything that was missed. They will get a notification that there was a reset, however. For OSD to OSD communication, because basically everything would have to be resent, and nothing is really would be okay with dropping a message. There's an alternate model which is stateful, and the messenger layer itself remembers any unacked messages and will resend them automatically. You don't get an MS reset message at the messenger interface level because the messenger handles it internally.
Okay, I assume so. Good to hear confirmation.
Yep.
Thanks.
I think the ACK is implemented right in the messenger layer.
Yeah. In a larger sense, there are conditions under which it wouldn't be the only conditions under which the message would be not acted on by the other side is the case in where the interval changed, in which case both sides will independently get an OSD map with that information. They'll both go through peering and they'll both drop all outstanding work anyway.
Yeah.
You've probably seen that throughout the classic OSD code. Yep.
Yes, I did.
Every callback really has that decoration.
Yeah. Okay.
It's sort of like a cluster-wide broadcast with kind of weird sequencing semantics.
But it makes sense. Good. Thanks. I was wondering, I mostly started to wonder about it when considering indeed ordering issues, but if we are guaranteed order...
Yeah, message delivery semantics are ordered. There's an asterisk with a whole bunch of details after it, but at least at the messenger layer itself, assuming both messages were dispatched in the fast dispatch path from the same other endpoint, then they will be delivered in order.
Okay. Thanks. So that's it for me.
Hey, Ronan, I got a question for you. Are you guys allowed to go to office?
No.
At this moment? No? Okay.
Absolutely no.
Okay, I see.
Actually, Israel is on the rise in the number of. We opened all the closures, all the restrictions, and now we are starting to lose control.
The US did the same thing. We're experiencing the same thing right now.
But you did it in a grand way.
In an American way, let's say.
Yes, we are still trying to do something about it.
Yeah, I just want to see if you will be able to work with Gabby in the same room, same office. That will be very helpful for him to warm up very quicker. I mean, but
yeah, and I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think how I'm doing is breaking in from remote. It's not easy. It's not easy for him mostly.
The read I got from him is that he'll come up to speed quickly, I think.
I think so too. I got the impression he knows what we.
Okay.
What he's doing.
Sam.
I got distracted by a summit presentation last week, so I'm back on now the LBA pinning thing. The original thing I was going to do with pinning isn't going to work, so I'm doing a second thing that should actually work, and I'm implementing that now. Short answer, you know how the extents get replaced by a new extent every time you write to it?
Not sure.
Like when you're using the transaction manager interface, you have to use get mutable extent or something every time you want a new one. Yes. So that is it actually new object at a new place in memory?
Not necessarily.
So yes. No, your buffer may not be, but the object does.
Yes.
The wrapper object does absolutely have to be a different one. So for that reason, certain intrusive tricks for pinning objects don't work. So I'm doing something else.
Okay.
Basically, 8 points.
You have some new commit on your shared branch. I'll take a look at it.
There isn't much there yet. I'm doing some refactoring right now. It's going to be several days. I wouldn't worry about it. Yep. Okay. It'll be next week, I think, before it's in a state where it's intelligible.
Yes. Johan.
Last week I was trying to learn the tautology architecture and how to run test suits on tautology, and I'm also working on I'm working on this branch to group multiple recovery pull and push ops into a single messenger, as long as they are targeting the same OSD, and that's all for me.
Actually, I'm going to suggest that you not bother. At least not right now.
Okay.
So if you think about just some history. So that feature is valuable for the case where you have a bunch of little S3 objects from RGW, just because that way you fill up a bigger message. So we will likely want it eventually, but for RBD objects it doesn't matter, and even for RGW objects this isn't a correctness thing; it's just an optimization. So if it's easier to implement, I would actually just leave it to do and do it later. It's up to you. If it's easy, you can go for it, but right now I'm more interested in getting testing working.
Okay, I think I can put the testing on a high priority.
I think I discussed with Xuhan regarding to his work in Plate, because we're being blocked by the test, by CVADM based test. So that's why Xuhan move over to these improvements.
That's fair too. I just wanted to point out that particular optimization is only valuable for RGW, so it's not immediately material to RBD.
Okay, I got your point.
Still useful, like we'll want it eventually, but not urgent.
Okay.
Yixing?
Last week, I because the ONode tree code is too large and complicated, I have to split the implementation into files. So I split it in. I did the refactory and split it into 22 files. That's me.
I mean, split into what? 25 files?
Into smaller headers and those files.
Okay.
Previously, it was a huge header.
I see. It was like a
1,002.
Yes. Are we going to have a walkthrough regarding to the recovery back view before ending the end-up? Vitek, what do you think?
We can do that. We can also send an email to Ceph Devel to let more folks to join. That way it will be next week.
Yeah, it might make sense to do it on a week and just make a point of doing all our stand-up thing within the first 5-10 minutes.
Okay.
That might be a good idea.
Also.
Okay. So maybe let's schedule on next week is 8th of July.
Although, I mean, we have half an hour. Probably could do it today. Up to you guys.
I'm fine either way.
I'm fine.
On which day do we set it? Next week from now?
I think we're discussing it.
Can go next week.
Okay.
I'm fine also with both options. Okay, so we need to send. We will need to send a small email to, let's say, Ceph Devel, just to announce we will have code walkthroughs.
Oh.
So do we want to talk about the CDM? I reserved this a couple of topics for tomorrow's APAC CDM. It is APAC, right?
Yes, it should be the morning, like 8 a.m. in my time zone.
Anyway, so I'm going to talk a little bit, just briefly, about where SeaStor is. I don't know if you guys want to talk about recovery backfill, if you'll even be awake. Or I also kind of want to talk about the QA thing and where we are with the Ceph ADM-based testing, if at all possible.
Yes. I'll try to collect some information with the JPCAT for this kind of topic. Hopefully by then we should have run the first testology-based test with against Crimson by then. Excellent. Because we run into some infrastructure issues last day. We were about to test it.
Yeah.
Well, I'll write to won't pop up on the APAC CDM. I just checked the calendar. It's in the middle of night in Poland. So
yeah, that's not worth it. Okay. I'll just mention the We're pretty close on backfill.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. So it will be recorded?
Yeah, I think do we record it? I think so. Yeah.
It should be
I
recorded.
talked with Josh, and everything is recording out of the box, so we don't even need to worry about pushing a button.
Yeah, CDM is always recorded. There's a page on the Ceph wiki, I think, with links to the old recordings.
But the only one that wasn't recorded last time was ours. Was the
Oh, did we mess up?
what was
Oops. Okay.
yeah, something went wrong with that specific.
Well, technology, you know.
Good, we are not working with that.
Anything else? Nope. Okay. Talk to you later. Thank you guys, and have a good one.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, see you soon.
See you.
Thanks,
Later.
bye.